Namaste, crypto aficionados and my fellow capitalists. I hope you guys are doing great, and I'm back again. This is an urgent video because when I was browsing on Twitter, I came across a tweet by Balaji Srinivasan. This guy is like the former CTO of Coinbase. He founded Earn.com, and he's huge. He's a big investor, formerly Andreessen Horowitz. So this guy is connected, and he owns like hundred of thousands of Bitcoin and all that. So this tweet, right, got me thinking, and I think I had to make a video so that this goes out to the public space. Now, it is not. I'm not trying to cause any it's not to make people emotional or to go and get crazy or anything like that, but it is something to think about. Now, this guy James Medlock, right, he is talking about he's saying that I will bet anyone $1 million that US does not enter hyperinflation. Okay, so Balaji replied, he says I'll take that bet. Okay, so he explains it. He gives a long explanation which I will go into, but what he's saying is that he's willing to bet $2 million that Bitcoin is going to be more than $1 million in 90 days. In 90 days, Bitcoin is going to be more than 1 million US dollars, and he's betting 2 million on that. Okay, so this is the premise. Okay, why? Now, what is there something that he knows that we don't? Okay, this is from a guy who owns a lot of Bitcoin. Of course, he wants his Bitcoin to do well, and of course, if he owns 500 Bitcoins, 2 million is nothing. Maybe he just want to do it for fun. I don't know, but he says, let's take a read. And just as in 2008, the bankers lied. This time, the central bankers, the bank, and the bank regulators have lied to all dollar holders and depositors. Okay, this isn't your typical fractional reserve situation. The problem is that there isn't enough in the banks on a mark-to-market basis to cover withdrawals. They knew this through all of last year and communicated it internally in their coded language. So banks, their coded language. It's obvious from the graphs, the central banks, the banks, and the banking regulators all knew a huge crash was coming. The phrase is unrealized losses. Okay? But they never notified you, the depositor. Instead, the regulators allowed banks to hide their literal insolvency in footnotes. Okay? Until one guy figured it out. Okay, it's Uncle Sam Bankman-Fried. Just like SBF used your deposits to buy shitcoins, using accounting tricks to fool himself and others into using the money, so too did the banks. They used the deposits to buy the ultimate shitcoin, long dated US treasuries, and they all got wrecked at the same time in the same way because they bought the same asset from the same vendor who devalued it at the same time, the Fed. Specifically, as New York Times admitted, banks binged on enormous amounts of treasuries and other long-term bonds in 2021 when the flood of printed money cut off their typical demand for loans, and because they thought the Fed would keep interest rates low forever. And they had a good reason to believe this. And Powell said he'll be patient on the rate hikes as late as November 3, 2021. So 2021, November 3rd, Powell says, before he gets elected, he says, we think we can be patient. So he's sending a message, right? We can be we'll be patient on the hike. So the market is anticipating cheap money, right, in the system. But that's not true, right? Because he says we will be patient. That was in November 3rd. But then he got re-nominated on November 22. right? 2021. So just 2 weeks later, a couple of weeks later, right? And he hiked rates much faster than anyone had expected, which even Yellen and the FDIC admit caused the current banking crisis. Why did Powell delay? Probably for political reasons. Presidents don't like rate hikes, especially running into the election year of 2022, right? The House election. And Powell thought he could wait and just be like Paul Volcker, who was firm and then defeated inflation. Now, Paul Volcker is different, right? So Volcker was different. Volcker approached, high inflation by, yes, increasing interest rate, but he also, right, increased the output production, increased the supply of goods, reduced taxes so that people had more money to spend. He kept the money system tight. It is totally, it's and it allowed for the interest rate to find its own level. But right now, the Fed is just increasing, decreasing at will. I want to bail out my buddies. I give you money, I bail you out, right? I print out cheap money for you. I print out cheap money, I give you cheap money. And then after that, when the system overheats, okay, I tighten a bit. Tighten. So what happened over the last few months? They tightened too much, huge. They were like going crazy, right? And they kept tightening. So eventually, she comes out and says that when she was asked, if, let's say, other banks in US, other community banks, smaller banks, if they fold, will the depositors, will they be made whole again? And she's saying, if we deem fit, only our preferred banks, those banks, if we deem fit, we will make them whole again. But not all banks will be included. So if a small community bank goes bust, the people who are having money in the bank, they will not get, their money back. So this is essentially what they are saying. And this has severe implications on the banking system of United States, whose US dollar is the reserve world currency. So this is a huge thing. Okay, coming back to Balaji's tweet again. He is saying that the world isn't on 80s rerun. Hiking from 10 years of near zero interest rates in the 2010s was a surprise attack on every dollar holder. That's what he's saying. Okay? Economics isn't politics. The kind of insane flip-flop you see in politics don't work when there are actual contracts involved. So anyone who bet long-term treasuries got killed in 21, and now anyone who bets on short-term treasuries is going to get killed in 23. The absolute worst place you can be is to have large amounts of assets locked up in a 3-month treasury bills. The 5% interest rate offered by the big banks is a trap. Most fiat bank accounts are now a trap for those countries whose central bankers follow the Fed. Now, even in Singapore, you're seeing banks like OCBC, like DBS, suddenly from nowhere. We were like less than a 1% for the longest time. But suddenly, late last year, I'm seeing Singapore banks giving up to 5-6%. Now, this is unheard of. It could be a trap. It could be where they want to lock in your liquidity and they know what is coming, but they don't tell you what's happening, right? What's going to come. So, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, right? But I think everybody should be alert. And I think everybody should keep their money in Bitcoin, in gold, and of course have cash as well. But you need to quickly understand that things are not the same. We are not in the 90s, or we're not in the early 2000s. Now we are in a situation where it's World War III, right? So US dollar is the reserve currency, but they are sending so much money to Ukraine. They can't fix their economy right now. So it's breaking down. I think the way banks going under in US, you don't hear it often, and 3 banks already have gone under, right? I've heard the Silver Bank, and then the Silicon Valley Bank, and now I'm hearing First Republic Bank. And it's not only US, it's also Switzerland. I'm hearing Switzerland, right? Um, Credit Suisse, right? It came in the news. They are going to be taken over, right? Most probably by UBS. So there was three banks. There was Union Bank, there was Credit Suisse, and there was Swiss Bank Corporation. Swiss Bank Corporation and Union Bank merged, right? So they became UBS. So then there was two only, UBS and Credit Suisse. And now Credit Suisse is in deep trouble. And I'm hearing UBS is, going to take over Credit Suisse. So there's only one bank in Switzerland. It's a big banking, country. It's a banking giant, of course. The whole world, a lot of politicians, a lot of companies, a lot of European royalties keep their money there. It's big, right? And look at Lebanon. 90% of the purchasing power gone, just like that. Did you see, if you looked, they were setting fire, to their banks. They were breaking their ATMs, setting fire to their banks, to their ATMs. It's gone. It's crashed. It's gone. So what I'm saying is that a guy like Balaji, okay, maybe 1 million is too far-fetched, I don't know, but I think there's some big problem in the banking sector in US, which is connected to all over the world, right? Which is connected to, all the banks, right? Because a lot of banks hold US treasuries, especially banks that are, countries, that have close relationship with US. So they will be holding a lot. So he's saying that the 5% interest rate offered by big banks is a trap. Most fiat banks' accounts are now a trap for those countries whose central bankers follow the Fed. And one of it is Singapore. You follow the Fed, looks like you're going to get wrecked. That's the way I see it, And he's saying that he is moving 2 million into USDC for the bet. And he's saying that everyone else should just go buy Bitcoin, okay, as it'll be much cheaper for you than locking one up for 90 days. Okay, so he's giving a bet, where a Bitcoin is worth less than 1 million, the counterparty gets the 1 million in USD. If Bitcoin is less than 1 million, right, he loses the bet and the counterparty gets the 1 million. Okay, so hyper Bitcoinization. Okay, so he is saying that you have to define hyperinflation in BTC versus USD terms, because all other fiat currencies can and will be inflated away. That is hyper Bitcoinization. This is the moment that the world redenominates on Bitcoin as digital gold. Read this again. This is the moment that the world redenominates on Bitcoin as digital gold. So what he's saying is that Bitcoin is going to replace the US dollar as a reserve currency, because the dollar now is at a state where it can't save itself, So returning to a model much like before the 20th century, what's going to happen is that individuals, then firms, then large funds will buy Bitcoin. So he's saying that sovereigns like El Salvador, tiny crypto countries, will be buying, and a big move will be when like Florida or Texas or Singapore or Estonia, they buy Bitcoin, right? And when Narendra Modi tells India Central Bank to buy Bitcoin, even as a hedge, it's over. It's Bitcoin. That means if countries start using Bitcoin, Bitcoin becomes the currency of exchange between countries. Pay for oil, already done. Russia is buying oil with Bitcoin. People are paying, Russia with rubles and Bitcoin. They already accepted Bitcoin, right? It was in the news all over. So what he's saying that is going to be very, very fast. You won't even know what hit you. That's what he's saying, So hyperinflation happens fast. We have seen digital pandemics, right? COVID, digital riots, BLM on Twitter and all that. Digital bank runs, right? SVB. Everything will happen very fast once people check what I'm saying and see that the Federal Reserve has lied about how much money there is in the banks. All dollar holders get destroyed. The thing is, people are still tuned to an analog world, where things get gradually worse rather than all at once. But there isn't much forewarning for a digital event. There's no forewarning, right? It's 1, then it's 0. Just like the bank runs, except that this is a central bank. However, there are two sources of forewarning. One is the chart of the long-term depreciation of USD versus BTC from less than 1 USD per BTC to 25k USD per BTC. So what he's saying is that the dollar has lost its value, okay, to Bitcoin. $1 when Bitcoin was launched, maybe it was 20 cents, right? You could buy 5 Bitcoins at that time for $1. Gave you 5 Bitcoins. Now, $1, it gives you like, I don't know how many zeros in front, So it's like, it has lost that. So Bitcoin is, don't forget, there's only 21 million Bitcoin, right? There are trillions of dollars and they can just print at will, right? So what kind of value is that, all right? If you can just print at will, and if countries stop using your dollar, what kind of value is that? I mean, what are you going to do, right? So much of smart money has been voting against the dollar since the financial crisis. The end is a digital drop of a cliff, almost invisible on the chart, but highly visible in the world. The tweet is the second forewarning. It'll be ignored and mocked by people who still trust the US establishment, even after the last few years. Who can't imagine that the US banks and media could be lying to them to this extent? But they are, just as they did in 2008 over the last 10 years. The digital devaluation of the dollar is coming, and it's going to be intense. So you can see here, United States dollar with Bitcoin. You buy $1, could buy 5 Bitcoins. Bitcoin was 20 cents, of course, early on. But now you only can buy 0.00038 BTC. So my whole reason, it's late now. I never make a video at this time, but the whole reason why I'm making this video is to tell you that you have to hedge. You cannot have your money parked all in cash, right? You need to have cash, a little bit gold, and definitely Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is proving its point, right? When you saw the USDC crypto, right? The USDC depegging, right? That already sends alarm. And in that kind of condition, when you see Bitcoin increasing, it means people are moving away from that. They are buying Bitcoin. They are buying Bitcoin because they are afraid, right? Their USDC went to 85 cents, right? So guys, think about what I said. I don't know whether it's going to 1 million. I hope it does. But even if it does go to 1 million, the price of your everyday items is going to be more. So don't think that if it ever comes to that, 1 million Bitcoin would mean food costing 10-50 times more than what it's costing now. That's how it works. So this is what inflation does. Go and research the Weimar Republic, right? Go and see that lady. There's a famous photo, the lady bringing stacks of cash just to buy bread. and she forgot something, and she keeps the wheelbarrow there filled with cash, filled with German marks. But people just come, and when she goes into the house because she forgot something, she comes back, she sees her wheelbarrow gone, but the money is just lying down there. Nobody's touching the money because it's useless, it's no value. They rather have the wheelbarrow. It's useful, or they can sell it for something, right? You can exchange it for something. So I was inclined to make this video because I felt that you guys should be alert and get your coins out of the fucking exchanges. Please don't leave it there. Secure yourselves, get a ledger or a Trezor or whatever, and hold on to your cryptos, not your keys, not your coins. Okay guys, I'm signing out. Thank you so much, and namaste.